Hey, what's up? Richard here, Tennis Hacker. Today I wanted to try a slightly different style of video, and this is something that I'd like to make more of moving forwards, so I hope you enjoy this type of content. If you do, leave me a comment and let me know. I basically want to do a little bit more of a vlog style where I'm showing you my practice and my training, because that was my original plan when I started my channel, but just because I got injured and I had to stop playing right-handed, I basically lost my confidence, because when I was starting to learn to play left-handed, I sucked. So it felt a bit weird trying to teach people how to get good when I was no longer good. But I've got to the point now left-handed where they're improving fairly steadily, and I'm very confident that I'm going to get back to the point where I was with my right hand. And this has kind of really validated it in my head, the approach that I use, both in terms of on-court practice and the stuff that I do off-court in terms of brain-based training. But what I'm going to be focusing the majority of my videos on, hopefully, is just kind of how to practice on court, because it's a relatively simple process, but it really is a process that you have to follow and be very formulaic with. Most people jump around too much and they're doing all this different stuff, and I think a large part of the blame has to fall on the way coaching has gone these days, with people trying to get clicks on YouTube and saying we can hit the ball like Alcaraz in 3 simple steps and all that craziness. I want to show you kind of more what it's like and what's involved in actually becoming a better tennis player. So I'm going to show you a bit of my practice today. What I'm working on are inside-in forehands. This is a shot that I used to love right-handed, but I haven't really worked on it yet with my left hand because I just didn't need to, because there were so many other bigger issues that need addressing. So now I'm getting to the point where I can start to work on a little bit more fun stuff, and I want you to see how simple it is, and I want to inspire you to kind of work on the foundational components, because tennis is all about the foundations. There are only really 2 things that are hard in tennis. There is the positioning, so your preparation, setting up in the right position for shots, and then there is the timing. They're the 2 difficult things in tennis, and they are very difficult, but that's basically what you have to focus on. Most of the coaching cues and tips and things, they're just trying to fix those 2 issues, but you've got to understand the behind the scenes. They're the problems that we're trying to address. It's just about how we go about addressing them. So that's what I want to show you, and you're going to see how basic my practice is, but hopefully over the coming period, and if you look back at some of my other videos where I'm playing left-handed, you'll see a decent rate of progress, and you'll continue to see a decent rate of progress. So like I said, leave me a comment down below if you like this format. Let's get into it. I always start my sessions with a little bit of mini tennis, and when I say a little bit, sometimes it's a little bit, but a lot of the time it's quite a bit of mini tennis. I think it's an amazing tool, so it's not uncommon for me to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes working on mini tennis, because I think it's really good for improving timing. But I'll make a separate video where I go into that in more detail. Now I'm going to head to the back of the court and start to get a little bit warmer there. So the first round from the back of the court, I'm still starting to get warmed up a little bit. So I just set up a really simple feed that's basically going down the middle of the court, and then just work on moving slightly inside to hit the inside in. Now today is extremely windy and gusty. It's blowing the ball in towards me. So this is actually really useful for me, because one of the biggest things that I've struggled with or that I've had to work on when I started playing left-handed was getting better spacing on the forehand. So I'm having to think about it a little bit more today, because the ball is being blown into me by the wind, but that's great practice for improving my spacing. After the simple ball, I just made it a little bit more difficult, so I'm having to move a little bit further. And then I just did several rounds of this. As is often the case, the first round was a little bit sloppy. I didn't really get the timing down very well, but that's why I work on things in this format. So I do multiple rounds, and generally as I go through, the rounds improve, the timing gets better. And that's really my goal with what I'm doing on court. I'm just trying to work on specific feeds over and over again, so that my brain builds up a memory bank of what that flight of the ball means in terms of timing and when I need to initiate my swing. But that was the first round. I'm relatively happy with how it went. So now I'm going to turn it to a variable feed. So now switched up to a variable feed. The first round was pretty ugly looking. The shade has descended in because the sun's going down, so it's created very difficult shady environments, which again is something that I need to get better at. Like, if that happens during a match, it happens during a match. It's the same for both of you, so I need to get better with dealing with it. But I'm going to do a couple more rounds of this and just really try and work on improving the timing. Obviously the challenge here, before I had a single feed, it's much more predictable. Now it's the same power, the same level of spin, but it's moving from side to side and I don't know where it's going, which means I have to adapt to the spacing and the timing. So hopefully I can do a slightly better job on the next couple of rounds. Next couple of rounds were a little bit better, but not amazing, and that just means I need to work at it more. They are difficult conditions, but that's tough. That's the way it is. But what this is telling me so far is that this isn't necessarily something that I'm going to try and do in a match yet. My timing just isn't good enough to execute this shot with a high degree of consistency. For me at the moment, it still makes way more sense to just take that ball on my backhand, save a massive amount of energy, and just go back cross court. And then wait for a better opportunity. But I'm going to change the feed now and just kind of work on a slightly shorter ball. So the shorter ball was very similar to the slightly deeper ball. I was really struggling in the conditions, so my spacing and my timing weren't amazing. But that's obviously what I'm working on. And again, what I would say is this is probably not a shot that I'm going to start using in a match right away. I need a lot more work in terms of developing more consistency before it's a tactic that makes any sense. My one-handed backhand is probably stronger than my forehand, so it just doesn't make sense to spend all the effort running around when I could just step in quite comfortably on that ball and hit a backhand and it would be much easier. But ideally, I'm going to keep on working on this, because you watch the best players in the world. Obviously, I don't consider myself a best player in the world, but if you watch them, even though they've got good backhands, they still try and get around and hit with a forehand when they can. So that's obviously what I'm going to continue to work on, but it's just not quite there yet. Okay, so I wrapped up my session there. Overall, I'm feeling pretty frustrated with it. Tricky conditions with the wind and the shade, and the reality is that I'm not good enough yet left-handed to be able to play well in those types of conditions. So I get a little bit frustrated because it reminds me of how much further I've got to go. In good conditions, I'm pretty confident in all of my strokes, but when you play matches, the conditions aren't always good, so you need to be able to deal with this type of thing, and I can't yet, so I get frustrated. But that's tennis. Once I've eaten some food, I will probably be much less frustrated. I'll have a logical conversation with myself and remind myself that I'm trying to learn to play left-handed, and it's challenging. But let me know how you found this format of video. Obviously, I've got to go home and edit it and hopefully put it together in a usable format. But let me know what you think and if you'd like to see more content like this. Also, if you have any questions about anything and how I've structured my practice or kind of what I'm thinking about, then leave those down below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.